I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't that. And I thought I respected it, but now I respect it even more. I respect the people, and now I think I just know a bit more specifically how to prepare.
Welcome back to Fuelin Sessions. I'm your host, Scott Tyndall. Today we welcome back Holly Lawrence. And Holly, it's a bit of a special one because you just did your first Ironman. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I think still mixed emotions, but I've had about like a week to process it and ready to talk about it now. I wasn't ready like a couple of days ago. I was like, okay, just give me till Sunday.
Yeah, I remember I reached out to you. I was like, how are you doing? Are we good this week to record? And you were like, no, I'm not in the right frame of mind. And I was like, noted. Okay, we'll just give Holly a little bit of space. Okay, so I guess the question is just how hard is Ironman?
I mean, it's hard. It's hard. And I think if I could go back, I would really have the expectation talk with myself, because I feel like my expectations didn't really set me up for like really why I should have had like lower expectations going in, it more being a real learning experience. And I think I've just done so many 70.3s and really know that distance that you think, oh yeah, going twice the distance, training's got longer. Like I felt like I was prepared, but then for so much more than just like the physical aspects of it too, like I just really wasn't prepared for being in my head all day. And honestly, it was kind of emotional, kind of like fallout from it for a couple of days after. And I'm curious to like find out what other people's first Ironman experiences are like across the board, if like people have the same, because everything you see is like everyone feels amazing after. It's such an accomplishment. And maybe I never doubted whether I could actually finish the thing. So that wasn't my expectations, but maybe it should have been.
I mean, look, I think everyone I've spoken to is pretty bloody exhausted at the end of an Ironman. So I don't think what you felt in terms of that was unusual. I think the first thing that came to my mind when obviously I reached out to you and you were like, I'm not in a great mental state at this point in time. And I saw some photos of you, and I saw the one in particular with you reaching out to Poppy, and you just looked like, oh my God, give me my baby. And I guess the first thing I was thinking is like, I wonder if Holly's actually been apart from Poppy for that amount of time. And had you?
No, that was the longest I've been away from her. And like, it wasn't just the 9 hours of racing. I got up, 3 hours before, crept out of there because leave her asleep when I left in the morning, and it was torrential raining all day, and Sean's mom like kept her inside, so obviously not to like put her out in the elements of the torrential rain, so I didn't see her right until the finish line. And yeah, that really weighed on me on the run. Like it was really tough, and I wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah, I can imagine there were probably thoughts creeping in your head, sort of like, do I want to be out here? Do I want to be doing this? I'd rather be at home sitting with Poppy and Sean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is a long day. I mean, if we just think about the day, I mean, first and foremost, obviously, last time I think we spoke, you were obviously making a full recovery from, say, your stress fracture. Like, any issues around that before we get into the dirty details of how your first Ironman went? Like, in terms of the body leading in, going into the race and during the race, was there anything like around that site that you were concerned about at any point in time?
Yeah, no, not at all. Like, I've been totally healthy in this build up. Yeah, I mean that's also what I have to kind of put into perspective. Like, I fractured my sacrum at Christmas time. I had this super conservative return to run plan. I was only really running in March. Then that's like March, April, May, June, July. 5 months when I hadn't really run for 6 months, 7 months. I don't even know exactly how long it was. So like, yeah, we built up to running 21 miles, and I felt like but then I don't really know for me what it takes to prepare me to do an Ironman, and like I was happy with everything I'd done, but it's very unknown. And I was saying that before in all the interviews, it's unknown. I've never done it back to back on the day or whatever. But I think until I truly live something, I can't actually like understand something until I've like walked the walk. So like that was a big just like, okay, I understand. I understand what this is about now, and I really didn't before.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I read through your comments as well on your Instagram post, and I think a lot of people were obviously giving advice, which is always interesting, but they're also giving their thoughts about their first Ironman. And I think, I mean, can anyone really understand or expect what to feel at the end of an Ironman? I
Yeah.
don't know if you can. I don't know until, as you say, until you experience that suffer fest,
Mm,
what you're really going to go through. Because I think in your mind, like, having spoken to you since, it's like maybe what your expectations were. You're very hard on yourself, having known you for a number of years, and your expectations are incredibly high. Um, was it that your expectations were, did you expect to win the race?
no, and I think like the biggest things for me is like I am happy with the race when I'm like proud of myself. And it is very hard. Like you can say that and it sounds easy to be, oh, just be proud of your effort. But like actually being proud of your own effort is really hard because that's like being like I did everything I could. I tried through the hard moments. I like and in Ironman, a lot of it is mental. It's like once you get your head in your ass, like it is hard to turn things around. And I felt like I mentally got the better of myself by like beating myself up for like 80% of the day, which is a hard place to be in. And that's what I hadn't really I feel like I haven't had enough like really alone training to really believe also like you can have a real down patch. You can like be okay, this isn't what I want. I didn't expect to be running this pace. I would expect to be faster or whatever. But then like coming out of it, resetting your goals and like being mentally still like hungry and honest and keeping yourself like instead of kind of having a pity party and dwelling in it. And I feel like I had a pity party and dwelled in it.
For the entirety of the race?
At least for the entirety of the run, yeah.
I mean,
like,
that's a huge. I mean, I imagine speaking to other athletes, that will be something, going into Kona, because Kona's going to be, yeah, I mean, it's another level of sort of suffering, isn't it? I mean, I
yeah,
get it. Like Lake Placid, I mean, I saw the photos as well. It was raining, it looked cold, it looked miserable. And that obviously had maybe some impact on you on the bike, and on the run. But I mean, I think going into Kona, having worked with athletes going in there, it's another level of sort of psychological warfare, which I imagine you
yeah,
speaking to athletes who have done it is how to prepare for that and pull yourself out of that hole when you do get into the hole, which is probably inevitable as well, throughout that day.
yeah. And I think in Ironman it probably is. Whereas in a 70.3, like it's really near the end, like likely and like how bad can it get? It can't. It's going to be over soon. Like you're like yeah, it's just different. It's so different, and I hadn't really given it that credit that it is so different. And I honestly have a newfound respect for all the athletes that do Ironman, like because I really didn't understand
Yeah.
how like it can be traumatic, honestly.
Oh, I'm sure. I think that trauma is both physical and psychological. As
Yeah,
you said, you were dealing. I think the one thing you forgot to mention that you have gone through in the last sort of period of time is also giving birth. It's no small feat, and returning to the subsequent fracture and return to running and everything. But I think it's that has to layer in on top of everything that you've gone through over the past 12 to 24 months, and that's going to
yeah,
definitely play a role in, I think, preparing and also executing a race like this. And I think you'll be in a better position for the next one.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely knowing what to expect. And I think that's where I was really disappointed in myself too, because I just felt like, I have been through a lot. Giving birth itself is like kind of crazy. Like, unless you go through it, you don't really understand. And like, I doing an Ironman is kind of like giving birth, but like, there is no big reward at the end, like a baby. But I don't know. I think I thought I would be a lot tougher than I was out there, and I think that's what I'm disappointed in myself. And it was more like mentally got the better of myself when things weren't really going the way I envisioned them going, and I guess that's like mainly on the run. The bike was like it was what it was, but
I mean,
yeah,
your
I think
expectations though, Holly, like, we've reviewed this and I know you said to me, oh, well, that wasn't exactly the time that I actually wanted. But like, if we look at what we set out in terms of the nutrition plan, we said we aimed for 5 hours on the bike. I think you did 5:02. And we said around a 3 hour marathon, and you did a 3:02 as well. And then you're like, yeah, but it wasn't what I expected. And so, I mean,
and
and I
I think
imagine Sean has spoken to you about like what what was Sean's question to you about what did you expect?
yeah, I mean, obviously, like he knows that I could run faster than that. Like, and I think that was the biggest differential between like what I could do and what I did do.
Yeah.
Um, and and I guess it's just at the end that I was just like, I don't really know what to make of that. I'm like kind of embarrassed, kind of like. And he was like, What was your expectation? Did you just think it would be easy on your first one? Like you've never done this before, and yeah, and I think I yeah I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't that. But I think that it's good, and it's good to have a hard. I think it is good to have a hard experience on your first go, because then, and I thought I respected it, but now I respect it even more. I respect the people, and now I think I just know a bit more specifically how to prepare, even for
Yeah.
myself mentally.
Look, I think as long as you can take those lessons from it, and we will get into the lessons learned, and what you'll be thinking about taking into the next one, if there is another one before Kona or not, we can discuss that. But I think, like, why don't we break down your very first Ironman in terms of nutrition and sort of how it went, just so we can sort of look at what did we expect and what was planned versus what happened in reality, because I mean, I look at it and I look at what you executed and I'm like, well, it was pretty bloody good. Whereas I guess in your head, there were expectations that you'd set out that maybe weren't exactly aligned to, specifically to that nutrition. So, okay, in terms of what went to plan, was there anything in the week leading up to the actual race start that it was unexpected or, didn't go as you would have liked?
I mean, the only thing, and I knew it would be around the time, but I was hoping like it would just be like the day after my period. I started my period like the day before the race, which I was like, okay, great, this isn't ideal. Like, because typically, like everyone's kind of different. Some people feel great when they're bleeding, like they feel kind of shitty just before. But I'm always like, while I'm bleeding, I feel terrible, and I've been like super heavy since giving birth. I don't know how many cycles I've had, maybe 4 cycles since having a baby. So that just wasn't ideal. But I was like, great, fine. I've raced on my period before. It doesn't matter. But it's just another thing. Yeah.
Because some women will report feeling like super strong, superhuman the day after, and that's not you.
No, I wish. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that obviously nothing you can do about that. Just something that you have to deal with, I guess, and it throws a little spanner in the works. But leading in carb load, anything out of the usual? I mean, we usually shoot for somewhere between that sort of 10 and 12 grams per kilo. There was no issues leading up. Nerves didn't get the better of you.
No, not
Good.
not leading up. Just race morning, getting my breakfast in. The last three races, I've been like deathly nauseous in the morning, and it's so weird because I don't even know I'm like nervous. I don't think I've got whatever, and yeah, I'm just getting crazy nauseous in the morning to the point that I'm like gagging, trying to get my race pre-race breakfast down. We changed it from oatmeal after San Francisco when I was having it. Had it the same in but lesser in Vancouver, and then was like worse in this. Like had most of my breakfast, but like not all of it. So kind of made up a bit in more carb drink.
And we're just talking now. What we moved to in Vancouver was just boiled rice, wasn't it? With
Yeah.
a little bit of maple syrup and a little bit of. Did you add some yogurt into that and milk?
No, just almond butter.
Okay. And yeah, I mean, you just sort of have this sort of. Do you think it's the anxiety? Do you think it is a little bit of nerves around in particular with this race because it was your first Ironman?
I mean, it has to be, but I'm not like cognizant of anything. Like even Sean's like, "Do you still think this is a coincidence?" and like teasing me in the morning. I'm like, "No, obviously not." But like, it's mad. Like I didn't have any nausea through the whole pregnancy, and now I'm getting pre-race nausea. It's mad.
I mean, look, I am sure subconsciously there is that level of sort of nervousness or anxiousness because
Yeah.
you're coming back, and you're proving. I think you're proving to yourself, but probably proving to everyone else that this can be done. And I'm sure there's some level of anxiety there, and it is. I mean, you look at the literature and you look at the impact of stress on the ability on GI issues, and it's very real. And I think a lot of athletes underplay sort of that psychological component to GI distress and how it can have a
Mm.
very real impact. Especially, I mean, my biggest concern when we did speak about this was how much carbs did you actually manage to get in before the biggest race in terms of
Mm.
duration of your life. And I mean, thankfully, even with, what you were going through, we sort of estimated you probably got in around 150, 160 grams of carbs, which is on the lower end of where we'd like to see you with that race day breakfast, but at least you managed to get some in. And I think using, I know you use the Z2 drink and their products, and I think just having that alternative there to at least sip on that carb drink and get sort of that 70 or 80 grams of carbs in probably saved you at least in that respect.
Yeah.
Um, I think what we have discussed, though, and I think it's a good one for athletes listening, is just having a plan B. So,
Yeah.
moving forwards, I think what we've said is, if that wet type of, or, semi, I guess, not necessarily dry breakfast, if it's not an option because you are sort of gagging and not feeling it, we've discussed maybe having a bit more of a dry option. So something like you tend to go gluten-free just in the days leading
Yeah.
up. So using gluten-free bagel with some almond butter and some jam or something like that. And I think we'll look to do that moving into T100
Mm.
London and just practice that also in training.
Yeah.
Um, pre-race, sort of 40, 60 minutes out. How did that go? What did you do?
Yeah, I just took my caffeine Z2 gel, which is like 40 grams of carbs, 100 milligrams of caffeine.
No issues?
Yeah. Nope.
Pretty easy. And then sort of 10 to 15 minutes out?
Then just a little like sip of a gel, but not
Yeah.
the whole thing.
And was that because usually what we have planned is you take in at least one full gel there? Were you just feeling like you just didn't want to push it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I wanted.
Yeah. And again, like I think what you did leading into that, it was pretty close to what we'd anticipated in terms of carb amounts. I think what we've also discussed is maybe instead of, even having the option where you just you use gels blocks and carb drink mix if you're really struggling to get the food down, just to ensure that you get the total amount of carbs. And I think we just
Yeah,
practice that in training leading up, which should be
yeah.
all pretty straightforward. In terms of the swim, any issues, any
Nope.
GI complaints? Nothing. Swim went well. You were really happy with it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Some felt good, just long.
Yeah, just long. T1, the plan was to have a gel in T1, but you chose not to do that.
Yeah.
What was the reasoning behind that?
I mean, if I could go back, I would probably keep it a bit cooler in transition. Like I was like running in and out, like I was doing in 70.3, and even the cameraman Topher that I know, he was like, "Slow down." I was like, "Oh yeah, slow down," like joking with him. It was like the only time I spoke to anyone all day. um, but yeah, I would have probably like, yeah, maybe have that really as an opportunity to take something else, like, because it's still a long run, like you don't have to run as fast, like take something in, use that as an opportunity to like reset just before, because yeah, it's a long day.
I think that's a really good learning as well. Going into the next one is like actually just maybe bring the level of just, you know, your headspace
Yeah,
in line with what's about to come
yeah,
because
yeah,
you're about to
yeah.
be on the bike for a long time.
Right, right. And if you're just charging through as if you're doing 70.3, that's what your body kind of thinks you're doing, and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think it is a really good look. I think it is dependent on the individual athlete, but I think it is a really good opportunity. You've just come out of the water. I mean, the swim took you how long?
I don't even know. I don't know.
50 odd minutes. So,
50 minutes?
you know, you think
50.
about that. You had a little bit compromised nutrition going into it. You took in a sip of gel as opposed to a full 40 grams going into the swim. You've been in the water for 50 minutes. You know, it's a real
Mm,
opportunity in that case where, okay, you haven't had any fuel for the last 50 minutes. Let's get maybe
yeah.
40. You know, you can even think about getting, 40, even 1 to 2 gels in that T1, get it in, get on the bike and then settle into the bike. And I think that's
Mhm.
something, again, that, yeah, again, just having that plan B, I think,
Yeah.
and as you say, just settling into it because it is about to be a pretty long day on the bike.
Yeah.
So with the bike, how did that go?
I mean, okay. Okay. Like, honestly, like what I thought going in is kind of like what I averaged for the whole bike. It was just disappointing because how many people rode into me. And I think that's just me not knowing where the standard is. Like, yeah. Um, so like all in all, like it was fine. Fine bike, like other things that maybe I wasn't as aggressive, like in the rain, like around the technical bits, like. But I was like, oh, this is Iron Man. How's that? How much are people pushing this? Um, and then yeah, it's just like being. I think it's like very easy to stay on top of nutrition in a 70.3 because it's so much shorter. But as the time gets so much longer, I think it is like now I understand why people set up on their like Wahoos or Garmin's or whatever, like time things of being like, okay, now it's time to, the little alerts that come up or whatever, because like it does become so much more important. Like even like I dropped a bottle on the first lap of the bike, and I'm like, okay, well that I have personal needs that I'm planning. Like I always had the opportunity to stop, and I've got 3 bottles to replace, but I wasn't sure until like on the day whether I'd actually stop or not. And so I decided to stop. I've got everything, but I'm like aggregate trying to like, what am I getting in total instead of being a little bit more on it of being time, like time stamped.
Yeah, I mean, because one of the big discussions we had going into this was, were you going to use athlete needs or be completely
Mm-hmm.
self-sustainable? And I know personally, I was pushing for self-sustainability and not having to stop in athlete needs. But you were quite influenced by a video that you'd seen of Matthew Marquette, hadn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Where you'd seen Lake
Yeah.
Placid the year before and sort of
Mm-hmm.
how quickly athlete needs and how efficient it was. Do you want to just talk through that?
Yeah. So the people at Lake Placid Personal Needs, brilliant. They like have your stuff out ready for you and this isn't even like, I don't know if I'm getting them in trouble by saying this because like I don't know if they're supposed to do it or not. So it was like super quick. I did have something that I like knew, like I put in my frame, like a spare kit that I knew would like ejected my bottle. So I was like trying to remove that. So that did take me a bit more time, but like it would have taken me under 10 seconds to stop, and it took me 20 seconds because I was fiddling back with that. But like I'm like, that's in the grand course of things, like unless I was in a group, which at that point I wasn't, like I still stick by that. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And do you think, for your next one, you'll still consider using athlete needs?
Well, so for this, specifically this course, they just had like not proper sports bottles, which we were like having back and forth before, because you were like, no, for sure they'll have
Wow, I was
proper
quite
sports.
amazed by that they were just literally giving you like spring water bottles,
Yeah, with a
which very
spoon.
unusual for an Ironman to be giving you those.
It's actually not. It's more surprising. Not in 70.3, I don't think that happens. But in, yeah, and I saw on the course how many of these bottles were just like strewn over the road because they don't stay in anyone's bottle cage.
Yeah.
So, so
It
that
becomes
makes,
quite dangerous as well. I mean, it just those bottles end up on the road. I mean, it's just
yeah, yeah. I mean, I
surely
was
it's
behind,
something they need to look at.
yeah, I mean, I was behind Lisa Perter at one point. She went around the corner and her bottle went flying, and I narrowly missed it because it just was like skidding out behind
Mm.
her. Um, yeah,
Yeah, and you can't really lock those little ones in, can you? Like you can have the
and
bottle locks and things.
you can have rubber bands and or like whatever
Yeah.
bougie bands for it, but yeah, it's just not ideal. Like, so then
Yeah.
that was the other reason why I wanted one to have my nutrition, but and bottles. But like for Kona, I probably would rethink that because I
Yeah.
don't think anyone's personal needs there.
Yeah, so effectively at the start you had 3 bottles and 1 ejected, sort of what,
Yeah,
first halfway through the first lap, so you ended up
yeah,
having 2 bottles on.
yeah.
What we had planned, so we'd planned for you to take in 5 bottles of fluid across, and that was using the Z2 um, mix, so getting in around 80 grams of carbs, wasn't it, per bottle? Um, as a result of that first bottle or one of those 3 bottles ejecting, what did you end up doing in terms of how did you sort of manage that to ensure that you got your carbs in?
So I had extra gels in my like top tube. So I just knew, well, I'm going to get all of my gels in. And like by the end of it, 4 bottles, 6 gels. I think we were like 570 something grams for 5 hours.
Yeah, I think you took in. I mean, the estimated what we had estimated, you take in around 620 grams of carbs as an estimate, and you ended up taking in sort of just under that at around 580 grams of carbs, which put you at around 115 grams an hour. Whereas what we had planned with a little bit of overage was around 124, 125 grams per hour.
Yeah.
So I think you did incredibly well and managed it even with the bottle ejecting, sort of at least having that plan B with the athlete needs. And I think it's a really good, I mean, it is one of those things. If you don't need it, you don't need it, but it's sitting there.
Yeah.
And in this
Yeah.
case, it actually turned out really smart to have it in athlete needs because you actually did lose a whole bottle of sort of 80 odd grams of carbs. So I think
Yeah.
I'm really pleased that sort of plan B for you did end up working out pretty well. I know we'd planned on, because you've got a pretty decent sweat rate, we'd planned on taking in around 1.2 liters per hour. And you ended up taking, and again, it's difficult because some of this was water on the course where you were probably drinking about a third of a bottle, but you ended up taking an estimate of around 800 mils per hour. Do you want to talk about that and even that amount, how that had an impact on you?
Yeah, and that's where I was a bit kind of confused afterwards that I was just peeing like all the time on the bike. Which, I mean, it was like very, like, it wasn't cold, but it wasn't warm. Like, it was cool temperatures. and just raining the whole time. But I just needed to pee all the time, and it was like to the point where I couldn't drink because like I needed to pee, so I like had to pee so I could drink, which was just felt stupid, quite honestly, and frustrating. But I just didn't know because I felt like I wasn't overhydrating, but having to pee all the time was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, when you told me that, I was like, oh, okay, you certainly, it sounds like the amount of fluid you ended up consuming was over what was required. And it's quite surprising because, I mean, we predicted that the temperature wouldn't be super hot, but maybe it was a lot cooler than what you actually required. And, even with a third less, than what we predicted of what you maybe consumed.
Mm.
Again, it's probably a good learning where, I think that fluid, that total fluid amount maybe can drop down if it is super cool when you do decide to do a super cool sort of race again. And I guess one of the questions I had for you was it just the urge to pee? And I guess what I'm thinking there is it related to Poppy, and is there any issues where it was more the frequency or the urge to pee as opposed to the volume, and you were like, no, I was actually peeing a lot of fluid.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that's probably the best indication that it was just an overconsumption of fluid.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
I was even thought like, is it, like I'm more sensitive about like fluid retention and everything around my period is like the big carb load over the past few days making me like retain a ton of fluid and now I'm peeing it all out. Like I didn't really know what was happening.
yeah, it's interesting. I think, look, we would just, take a step back from that. I think looking at, the temperatures as the temperatures start to cool down, I guess, in North America as well, as it
Mm.
comes through, and, just replicating training in similar conditions and seeing
Yeah.
what you end up losing in terms of percentage of body weight. I mean, we've just got to look at that and then just adjust, I think, your fluid intake. And if, I guess the question with there is then, okay, how do we get the carbs in, and maybe using more gels, more blocks, instead of carbohydrate drink mix in those cases, and just adjusting into the conditions. And I think it
Yeah.
is one of those common mistakes that can be made for athletes, not necessarily you. I mean, we've never had this before, but I've certainly seen it in the past where athletes are just so rigid in terms of drinking their carbs that because of those lower temperature conditions, they're over consuming fluids, and that can have some pretty negative effects on them. So,
Yeah.
again, I think it's a good lesson. I don't think we're going to have that problem with overconsumption of fluids when we come to Kona. But
Yeah.
certainly for any other races in cooler temperatures, it's certainly
Mm.
a consideration.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things you were sort of asking about as well going into the race was sort of your sodium intake.
Mhm.
And you were concerned, the possibility, are you taking in enough sodium and cramping and things like that? How did you feel in terms of cramps? Did you experience any cramps or anything like that?
No, no cramping.
It's all good. You have complained in the past some hand cramps in some of the 70.3 and the T100s. Did you experience anything of that?
No,
No.
no.
And I guess your average intake of sodium was around just under 800 milligrams per liter as an
Mhm.
estimate. You took in just around 3,000. Again, it's all estimation based on
Yeah.
your total fluid intake, but based on the products you consumed, you took in around just under 3,500 milligrams across that 5 hours of
Mhm.
biking, which I think, look, based on your testing, puts you in that sort of sweet spot. I think it put you at around 60% of what you've been tested. And I personally always think that's a good range, somewhere in that sort of lower to mid point of your total amount of sodium that you lose. And I know we had a little bit of back and forth around that, but I think that is your sweet spot. I certainly don't think you need
Yeah.
more than that going into any future races.
Yeah.
How was the mood on the bike?
Um. Yeah. I mean, okay for the first lap, and then just yeah, not so great in the second lap. Like it was just long.
Were there any thoughts of quitting?
No, I don't think so. I feel like my brain's already deleting it. But yeah, I mean, it was just hard to like mentally get through, like, you know, time gaps being put into you, and like that it just wasn't, I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that. So yeah, I just, yeah. And I guess like, you know, Ironman's motto is like anything is possible, but like I think I'm just so like, okay, if this has happened, then it's not going well. Well, you know, it's more like, yeah, instead of being like, I'm not like optimistic, but just like, just keep just dealing, and like, yeah,
Did you
I
have an
got my head.
understanding? Did you have an understanding of where you were on the bike in terms of what position you were at when you came off?
I mean, I knew where I was, but you know nothing, and that was the crazy thing. Like, just didn't see anybody the whole time. Like, the whole bike was just like way out there. No time splits, no nothing. Like, you don't know anything. Even at one point, I thought it was Love Seth behind me, and I was like, "Oh, come on, then, come round." And I like kind of waved this person round, and it was a male pro, you know, who's like obviously doing terribly. And after a while came out, and I was like, oh God, like who are you?
Poor bloke.
You just have no idea. And then like, so then when things happen, it's like it's a surprise always, because you just have no idea. And I think I don't like surprises. I don't like, it's like you just have no information, and then all of a sudden things will change, and you just, that's that. I just wasn't, I don't know. I just wasn't expecting that either. So it was just all very new and in the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something that can improve, do you think, in future races for you, like communication?
I mean, I feel like in Kona things would be different, I would imagine, because like up at the turnaround, there's always a bunch of people there, and like, and
Just
maybe they're
yelling
just
at
like,
you.
hey, but you know, not giving you anything. I'm like, someone needs a whiteboard.
Well,
um,
it's a good point though, isn't it? Like just a whiteboard to give you an indication of, you know, how far you are
and
behind the leader or the next person, you know, just to give you
yeah,
some sort of, because it is so long and it's so lonely, I guess some sort
and
of
that's,
motivation.
yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, and especially I've been now doing T100s. Like, I've not raced in. I was looking for my race belt, and I was like, when was the last time I used a race belt? Which was me in an Ironman race. And I was like, oh, it was 2023, because I did Miami last year and then just T100 since. And like, obviously, I'm used to doing T100s now, where like the bike course has 6 laps. Like, I can see where everyone is every lap.
Yeah.
Like, I'm used to like knowing everything that's kind of going on. Whereas like in Ironman, you just have no idea for hours, which is mad. Like literally hours.
Yeah, it's a
Four
long
hours.
time to be in your own head, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is.
Okay, you came off the bike. How were the quads feeling when you came off the bike?
Quads were just blown after the bike. I just really struggled to run uphills. Like downhills, I was fine. Yeah, I was kind of like, oh God, I can't believe I've got to run a marathon now. And like, I don't, yeah, it's hard to put myself back in that space. But yeah, it just kind of trudging, and like, and someone said to me before, oh, the girls up front are fading or something. I was like, okay, okay. And I remember seeing them at the turnaround thinking like, they look fine. And like it was like everyone spaced out way more than in a 70.3 too. So I'm just like not used to all of these like nuances about Ironman. I'm just like, I'm not used to how far apart we are. I'm not used to, whereas like, I think in a 70.3, if that would happen, you'd freak out. Whereas like, I just didn't know this is what happens. So it's like
Yeah.
all of those just unknowns. And
But
like
at
even
least
if,
now it's not an unknown.
well, exactly. And I can't truly like believe something until I've gone through it. Like I'm just very hard headed like that. I'm just like, you can tell me something, but I won't really get it until I've like done it. And then I'm like,
I,
oh, I see what you mean.
I'm a massive fan of experiential learning. Like, I think it is. I truly believe it's the only way you can,
Mhm.
really get a grasp on what's going to happen. I mean, yeah, mentally in your head, okay, I've got a long swim and I've got 180k, 3.9k swim and 180k's on the bike and a marathon. Yeah, that doesn't sound too bad. Then you go and
Yeah.
do it, and you're like, oh wow, okay, this
Ooh.
different gravy.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, um, so you ran. We had a plan for the bike, for the run. Sorry, you came out of T2, nothing in T2. You had a couple of Z2 gels in your hand.
Yeah.
Um,
Went out with
how
like my
did the
girl.
gels go on the run? How are you feeling at this point in time, having taken in a fair bit of carbs and, again, the longest ride race wise you've done with that amount of volume of carbs going in? How was the gut at this point in time on the run?
Honestly, my stomach was fine. Like I honestly probably would have been better just like I think I still was like very slow with everything. Whereas like I don't know, like and I was having a lot of caffeine, like, you know, how many of my gels were caffeine, but
Well,
like I don't even
you had three caffeinated gels on the bike, so that puts you at another
yeah.
300 milligrams. You had 100 milligrams before the start, so you're at 400 milligrams now. So
I
what's
was waiting
this?
to feel like a buzz from it and I never felt
Never got it.
anything. So I was like, I could maybe I should have like at some point taken more than I thought. I don't know because like I never had any like GI distress. Like some part of me now is like, well, like even we said about having a gel in T1 and like maybe at some point when I was feeling low mood and everything, like maybe I should have been like, okay, just take a bunch in and then let's see how I feel in like half an hour. But I never did. It was just kind of that trickle.
Yeah, it's always, I mean, it's such a tricky one, isn't it? Because you as an athlete you're going to be the only one who knows. Like, we know
Mm,
roughly how much you can cope with per hour. Like, we'll shoot for, that 80 odd grams per hour, and we know that you feel really good. But, how you get that in and at what points in time, again, we'll have a plan every sort of 15, 20 minutes. But I think sometimes you've just got to make that call as the athlete and go, you know what, I just need to dump a couple in right now because I'm pretty low on
yeah.
energy. And I think that
Mhm.
that will come with more
Yeah.
of these where you start to understand what your energy levels are doing and how to
Yeah.
actually combat that at that particular point in time.
Yeah.
Because I think, like, best laid plans, what did Mike Tyson say? He said everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And,
Oh, I got pumpkin face. Yeah.
yeah, but you say that, Holly. I mean, so okay, so you came out with two of your Z2 gels. You consumed another three Morton gels on the run. We planned for Coke from just after halfway with the Mortal. You got that in. I mean, you're saying like, yeah, I was just trudging along, and then we predicted a 3-hour marathon. You do a 3:02, and I'm like, oh, God damn you. Like, and I know you're like
And
so
I'm like, this
disappointed with a
isn't
3-hour marathon. What's that?
running. And I'm out there being like, this isn't even running. I don't warm up so slow or whatever. And you're like, I would run that if I
I would
could.
give anything to run a 3:02. But look, I think that's really important as well. It's expectations, but it's also reality of what your fellow women and fellow
Yeah.
men, professional athletes, are doing in these races, because I think it's a really important lesson as well, because you're taking in, what did we shoot? We shot, you were shooting on the run, 80 odd grams, 85 grams an hour. You took in, not far off that based on what you consumed.
Mm.
Around that 85 grams an hour, you did a 3-hour marathon. You weren't happy. You felt like you're trudging. But I think it is really important because the pace you were setting requires that amount of fuel.
Hmm.
And yet I think a lot of athletes will just see what you're consuming, what Kyle consumes, or Daniela when she was racing, or Jan, and they're like, okay, I just need that. And it's like, well, yes and no, depending on your power output and the speed at which you're going. And I know you felt like you were trudging to a 3-hour marathon, but it's still fast. Now, it's not as fast as you wanted, and I can see you grimacing going, yeah, it wasn't that bloody fast. But, if you set expectations versus what was planned, what would you really have been happy with if you'd run that?
I mean, I think I could have at least run like a 2:55.
What's the course record there?
Well, Love Seth ran a 2:46.
Oh, that's quick.
Tamara ran a 2:40. I mean, she only got beaten by 2 men, I think.
2:40 is rapid. I mean, that's just, especially, I mean, it was, what did you say, 1,300 feet?
1,200.
As well. 1,200 feet. And I mean, the bike was 7,500 or 7,600, wasn't it, of climbing? So, I mean, it's, again, like, I remember when you first told me you were doing Lake Placid, and I was like, for your first one? Really? Like, it's not an easy one. You got a hell of a lot of climbing on the bike, and the run's not exactly flat. And, I mean, I step back as someone who's in your team and working with you, and I'm like, well, I think it went pretty well. If you had to give yourself a grade, where would Holly Lawrence grade herself for her first Ironman effort?
I think American grades are probably easy. It's like pass or fail, right? Or like, I don't know.
Go on, give it out of 10. Out of 10, what would you have given yourself?
A 5.
A 5 out of 10. You came 5th in your first Ironman. You did a 5-hour bike and a 3-hour marathon, and you give yourself a 5.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you think that's harsh or generous?
I think you're a pretty harsh critic on yourself. I'm sure Sean's sitting in the background shaking his head, going, what the hell? I think a 5's a little harsh, Holly. I think you did way better than a 5 out of 10. However, it's your personal rating system. And you know what? If you gave yourself a 5, then I think if we can get you to, say, a 7.5 or an 8, you're probably going to finish very, very high up in your next race, because I think there's potentially a lot more to come then. Mm-hmm. You finished the run. You have finished 5th, your first Ironman. Mm-hmm. What happened immediately after?
Well, immediately after, I found the seat next to the finish line. They passed me a towel, and I proceeded to cry behind the towel.
Tears of joy.
No. It was like what I'd been hedging like all day, like for at least 3 hours, and I could finally just like let it out.
And you looked up, and who had handed you the towel?
That was Scott DeRue.
So good. So good. He's like, you're okay.
Yeah. No, he was like, oh, you did it. Because I was saying before, and I was in transition in the morning, I was like, oh, I'm a newbie, like all these others, like age groupers out there. And he's like, oh, you'll be fine, or whatever. And then I'm at the end like, oh, God. But then, I slipped off it, so then it was all fine.
And I saw your photos, and you immediately reached out, and you got Poppy immediately. Did that have a big impact on you?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to see her, so that was like, just a bit of an emotional moment. But yeah, and then like people were saying during the race, they're like, "Do it for Poppy, do it for that didn't resonate with me at all, because I was like, I could just be home with her, and that's all she cares about, So like next time for Kona, my mom and dad are coming, and she is going to be out on that run course. I don't care what they got to do to make her happy. Put her in the ocean, bring her back out. Like, she's going to be out on the run course. She's going to be happy. And I'm going to see her.
We'll have to get some massive Fuelin sombrero or something like for her, so she can just rep the brand but be fully covered, so there's no chance of sunburn.
Yeah. I'm going to get her some kind of like ice vest so she can stay cool. I don't know. I'll make whatever it needs to be happen. Yeah.
No, I love it. immediately post, I know we've talked about this and I've talked about it, that we've been trialing some sort of post-race recovery protocols. And I remember when I spoke to you about this, I was like, oh, there is no chance that Holly, and I actually, I was talking about this the other day with, I can't remember, it might have been Jan, and we were talking about post-race
Yeah.
recoveries. And I said, I am going to give big ups to Holly because she is such a pro. She always gets the protein, the carbs in. Like, we're doing this whole thing, 50, 60 grams of protein immediately with like 100, 150 grams of carbs straight in. And then I was thinking, I'm going to speak to Holly after this race and she's going to be like, hell no, I didn't get that in. I was like so broken, but you got it in.
Yeah, of course I did. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
So
Yeah.
good. I mean, and I think Sean, credit to Sean, because I imagine he played a role
I
with
mean,
getting it to you.
yeah, it's only because he has it there and he just forces it in my face and I just chug it. And it's
So
good. I
good.
mean, I'll send you the photos. Like, there's photos of him in the finish line making the little bottle.
So
Yeah.
good. Like, honestly, I think it speaks volumes for you as an athlete in that professionalism, though, because you've just done the longest race of your career. You've sat literally at the finish line crying. You finally got your baby back. You know, I'm speaking from experience with a pro athlete where I was, you know, like, I was there with Fred and I literally had to force Fred to drink the protein and the carbs because he was like, I just don't want to do this. But credit to you for doing it. And I think it makes a difference. And I know, look, you didn't take the creatine. We've talked about
Yeah.
adding the creatine into it, so 20 grams, just based on some more recent research where it may accelerate glycogen resynthesis. The cherry active concentrate, adding that in, making sure you get that, just reduce whatever inflammation. But I mean, in
Yeah.
terms of soreness and recovery, how different was it for you recovering from the Ironman versus, say, your PT, your T100 or your 70.3?
I mean, it is a lot different. Like, even like Vancouver, I was surprised. Like, because San Francisco, I was like, I've not raced in a very long time, whatever, I'd be sore. And then I think it was Vancouver the first time Sean was ready with the protein and everything afterwards. And I like pulled up so well after it. And I thought, like, oh, that obviously had a big effect. But then, yeah, after the Ironman, of just like generally like swimming could bounce back pretty quickly, but like my quads have just been like slow to come around. Like, even now, like, it's on the weekend, so it's been a whole week by, and like I can still feel my quads, like there's still like some residue, whereas, from a T100 by Wednesday I could do sessions again.
It's just, I mean, it's double the distance. Like, it's going to probably hurt double the amount of time. I think, people are probably listening to this and saying, like, I couldn't walk for a week, Holly, let alone think about getting back on the bike or the run. And look, I think there's going to be an element of, adaptation to the demand as well, isn't there? I'm sure the second one, you're going to feel
Mm-hmm.
better, and then third and fourth, and
Yeah.
it just becomes that little bit easier. Yeah, I did
I
read
mean,
actually. What did I read that you read? And we were laughing about it, where you were like, I am never doing one of those again. And then your mum kindly reminded you that the first time you did a 70.3, that you said exactly the same thing. And she was like, snap out of it, Holly.
well, she was like, imagine how your life would be if you actually gave in to that and never did a 70.3 again. I'm like, yeah, I know, Mom, I know.
Which is good. Mums always know. So, fair play to Mrs. Lawrence.
Yeah.
Um, Learnings for Kona. What do you take from this that you go, you know what, from a nutrition perspective, what do you take from this to sort of put into practice for your? Is there going to be a next one before Kona?
No, Kona
Okay, so
is going to
straight
be
into
the next
Kona.
one.
So
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if we were going to talk about that or not, but lessons for Kona, nutrition wise. What do you think needs to be done from your perspective between now and Kona to get ready with regards to nutrition?
I mean, I think it's just practice, 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 really. It's like, doing more of the long rides with my race nutrition. And I do want to do it then with run-offs and just check, like, does my stomach feel fine? Like, I think that is kind of the reason why I don't like suddenly err on like, okay, I'm just going to down a bunch now while I'm like feeling low or whatever, because I'm still scared, like, will this come and bite me in the butt kind of thing. Whereas like, and I know before in 70.3, even like when, we've been working together for years now, we would kind of like see, are there any upper kind of limits? So kind of having that confidence and like, yeah, just, and I guess it's just been a limited build up for this Ironman, because obviously I was doing some T100s and then like trying to keep volume, but like obviously I'm racing in between, and like, yeah, we just have time now, like all the way to Kona, of like doing more sweat tests. I've been a little bit slow off that. Like, yeah, I've done a couple, but like you're just like really just like practice, 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 and like getting used to like timing, time stamps, getting the nutrition in.
Yeah. If and I would just add in, I think it's going to be. We know that Kona's going to be hot, so lots of hot
Mhm.
prep, and then doing sessions in the heat and getting used to
Yeah.
what you can consume, because that's going to have a huge impact. I think, especially for this duration, like those long hot sessions with those runs off, and I think that's just
Yeah.
stuff that we plan in over the coming months. What about outside of nutrition? What would you take out of this going in, and would you do anything different in training to try and prepare yourself, and probably whether it's physical and mentally? Do you think there's elements there you can learn?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, I love company when I do like long rides and stuff. But I think like a lot of the key stuff, like I did one like key thing before, like I did on my own, but then like ran the next day with company, whatever. Whereas like I think doing that stuff on my own, even though it's a bit less enjoyable, like is a bit more like getting myself a bit more prepared. Yeah, I just think like to kind of more replicate it. I really need to live like what I need to do, and yeah,
Just mental toughness training, effectively, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh, dark
yeah.
holes. I think everyone says it's a dark place. It's a sufferfest, and I think you went there and you came out of it, and despite giving yourself a 5 out of 10, which I think is incredibly harsh, I think you passed with flying colours, and I think everyone who saw you race and saw the outcome would certainly give you more than a 5 out of 10. Um, I think it's an exciting start. I think it's a
Hmm.
really nice baseline to sort of say, okay, this is what went well, this is what
Yeah.
maybe didn't go well, and let's build on this. And I
And
think Kona's not that far away, is it?
and I do think you do learn more from the experiences that you're not completely satisfied with, and I've got a lot to like think about, and like, okay, what would it take for me to be proud of like what I've done, and like, and so it's like, yeah, making sure I've kind of set myself up for that.
I hope you're proud of what you've done, because, well, I certainly am as part of your team, I think, and everyone who knows you is incredibly proud of what you've achieved so far. And I think it's just, tip of the iceberg, Holly. I think
Hmm.
don't be too harsh on yourself. I think, you're a week down. I'm glad that you've said you will do another one. I think everyone in the world of triathlon is pleased that you will do another one, and that another one will be on the island, which is going to be a hell of a race. So looking forward to it.
Hmm. I mean,
Um,
I've seen Kona from TV from forever, so like I would be kicking myself royally if I never did it. So yeah, I'm going to be excited to be there, and yeah, it'll be a whole new game with like everybody there. And but it just makes me realize like, yeah, like now with so many of these like short girls coming into long distance too, like full long distance, that like it is getting faster, that there's like it's deep, and that will be exciting, especially in Kona, that like it shouldn't be so lonely. There should be a lot
Oh yeah,
more.
hopefully you'll have a group.
So like, yeah, that should be interesting. But again, like need to prepare for like each scenario that could happen, and yeah,
Well, look, the goal was, as Jordan Blanco said, just don't F it up. And so I think the end result, as our good friend, blunt as can be, but I think, look, the
yeah,
outcome was achieved. You qualified for
Mhm.
Kona,
Yeah.
and that was the biggest thing. And I think you should be, really pleased with that.
Mhm.
Holly, as always, fantastic catch up. Congratulations on your first Ironman, and I look forward to seeing the coming weeks and months. I know you got T100 London coming up next. Bit of a
Yeah.
change in pace and a change in distance. You'll be like, "Huh, this is easy now." So
Just
it should be good. I think back in your comfort zone, I guess, with that. But lots more Sufferfest and Pain Cave sessions coming up in the next few months.
yeah,
Well, thanks so much, and we'll catch you soon.
yeah. Thanks.